Welcome everyone to the kitchen table with Robin and Roxanne of Ember and Bloom. And have we got a great show for you today? How many of you ladies are stressed out and don't know what to do, whether you're coming or going, and how to organize your day, and certainly not how to take care of yourself in this busy holiday season? Join us today on the kitchen table. Well, welcome back, everyone. Today is Wednesday, December the 10th, and this is Roxanne Harris, the Audacious Wellness Warrior, and joining me is the ever-lovely Robin Parr.
Hello, everyone.
Oh my, it's a crazy season right now. We are in full holiday swing. I think we are 15 days from Christmas, or the celebration of Christmas that many women and families across Canada and the US are looking forward to. But with that is also all of the crazy that goes with it. And, I was reflecting on this the last couple of days, how a lot of the burden of a holiday falls on the woman. And, to have this perfect experience for family or friends or people that are coming. And, it's not just about, once upon a time you cooked a turkey and, had a piece of pie, but we're always trying to one up our environment, maybe our recipes. And sometimes that's a good thing. I mean, sometimes maybe it's a healthier recipe that we're trying. But, I've been noticing, Robin, that so many people, women, are absolutely exhausted, and we are far from the main event. And every client that I've seen in the last couple of weeks, especially the women, are coming in complaining that their brain isn't working. They are exhausted. They're on slow motion. They are on an emotional roller coaster, up, down, all around. They're angry. They're snippy. And even more so, the complaint is that, and I have nothing done. So it's like procrastination.
Yeah, and the mood, it must be something across Canada and perhaps even the continent, but everywhere you go, everyone's just, the mood is so low and yeah, snippy and snide and just completely overwhelmed. You talk about Christmas and people just are not feeling it. They know it's coming. They're procrastinating, and yet, you try and share some joy, bring some joy, and they're just not having it.
They're not having it. And, I teach a group of doctors every Wednesday on epigenetics. And so, of course, today was the day. And we were having this conversation about, even in our clinics, or some of them have medi spas or different places. And, what can you do at this season to have, a happy, healthy holiday, right? Versus just the Merry Christmas, and here's the fruit cake and the butter tarts and the pumpkin pie and the chocolate. Oh, did I mention, chocolate, and let's throw some wine or alcohol on top of that. And, I feel like many people use the food and the beverages of the season as an escape, and it's pulling even more life out of them. And so we're talking about, from, just a clinical standpoint, like, what can you do? And I think this translates really well to our families, especially, maybe you have kids still at home, or adult kids still at home, or maybe you have children and grandchildren coming home for Christmas. And, how can you ensure that everyone gets through, I'll say, in a better state of mind, more joyful, more full of peace? And it's not because you have the perfect chocolate or, the perfect mashed potatoes. That's not what people are looking for. It is for the connection. But we know that when we don't eat well, when we don't sleep well, when we don't take care of ourselves, we don't have anything else to give. And the thought was, well, maybe every person could have like a day, or each family could have a day where they're in charge of the happy, healthy Christmas portion. So whether that's a great, fresh, healthy recipe, maybe it's something like a movement of the day. So maybe they lead everybody through, like a little dance party for one of their favorite songs, or maybe they actually are into maybe training or working out, and so they sit down and get everyone on their kitchen or dining room table chairs, and they do arm jumping jacks and feet kicks, just to spice things up a little bit. Or they decide to go skating or for a hike, and those were really fun ideas. And then the Grinch jar, and I think everyone should have a Grinch jar at their house, where you've got a jar, and in the jar are short, fun things that can be done to help shift from Grinch mode into the season of love and generosity and gratefulness and kindness. And they can be things like, so you give everyone the instructions, so they're just going to play along because everyone's going to do it. But maybe they're Grinchy, and so someone calls them out and says, "Hey, go check out the Grinch jar." And they take a paper out of the Grinch jar, and they have to do whatever it says. So it might say something like, "Start singing Jingle Bells and dance through the house," right? Or it might be, maybe you're a family that loves spray can whipped cream. So maybe it's grab the whipped cream and, spray it on two people's noses, right? Or things that can just be adding some fun, or they could be kind things like make a cup of tea for, the person whose name starts with, whatever, or make a cup of tea for the youngest person that's in the kitchen right now, or like just little things that are sweet and kind and thoughtful, but also help with connection and de-stressing.
That sounds like an amazing idea. And if you don't have anyone at home, like all your kids are grown up or off to college, husband's away at work, there is lots of people in the community, as we just mentioned, you're walking around and the mood is there, that if you do one act of kindness, and it can be the smallest thing, but it trickles down, it blows up. Like it's, kindness is contagious, really.
It really is. And when we look at even kindness, it leads me to ask the question, like, what are we doing to be kind to ourselves as well? Because this is a season for women, especially menopausal age women over the age of 45. There's generally a lot more going on in your life. It's not because younger women aren't busy, yes, and they've usually got younger kids. There just seems to be, as a whole, a lot more that as we age, we fill our plates with, and we want to be everything to everyone at the expense of ourselves. And so how many times we find ourselves, and this kid wants this dessert, and this kid wants this dessert, and oh, and did you make these special cookies? Well, no, I didn't. And how come? And so now you're staying up until 1 or 2 in the morning making the special cookies that you weren't going to make, but you feel guilty as, a mom, instead of getting, the sleep.
And what a good way to incorporate the Grinch jar as well for yourself. During the retreat, there was, a couple ladies that spoke about some of the homework that we gave them to do. And, I'm tired. I don't want to do it, blah, blah, blah. And then they did it and they're like, wow, I really enjoy self-care. Like, how
Yeah.
amazing. I'm glad I took that extra 5-10 minutes. It's not an hour or 2 hours. It's just a couple of things that you can do, 5-10 minutes, and you just feel so much better afterwards.
Yeah. And keeping the routine is so important during the season as well. And generally we have routines because it's kind of what we know. It makes us feel get better. Maybe it's our little, health hacks or tips or tricks. But something, for me, I like to go on my red light therapy unit every day. And, if you get busy and there's the demands of, all of these other things take priority, I think we really have to remind ourselves that we take priority.
Mhm.
We can't give from an empty cup.
Mhm.
This is known. And yeah, you might give well for a day, maybe two, but eventually the cup is so dry
Mhm.
it starts to backfire a little bit.
Mhm. Well, and that's just it, and you start to, begrudge and get annoyed easier, and, somebody asks you to do the smallest thing, and then you happen to snap and bite their face off because you're just totally done. That's because women, we put ourselves on the back burner continuously, constantly, and, it's just wearing on the soul, and by the time you get into the perimenopause stage, you don't have the kids maybe necessarily climbing all over you, and you're overtouched and overstimulated, but you're just worn down, and we're still trying to do, because we have grandkids or older children that we're still trying to parent and make them feel special, and our husbands and our friends and someone at the church and this and that, and it is a season of giving and caring, but we also should be giving and caring to ourselves.
Yeah. It's, there is a demand, and no one can deny that. Even those unwritten expectations, right? I mean, I remember, the holiday where I decided I wasn't making one of these Ukrainian dishes simply because I didn't have the time, and it's a lot of work. And I remember sitting down for the meal, and somebody said, "Huh, you didn't make?" And I was like, "Really?" I said, "Let me just go do that for you." And I got up from the table and I made this dish. And, I didn't say anything, but it was felt and it was known, like, wow, right? I've been making this food, for 2 days, and y'all not helping. And now you're upset because I didn't make. Did you ask me if I was making it? Did you ask to help? And did you ask to help when I went to go and make it? Like, it's one of these things. So yes, I could have absolutely been, well, yeah, I didn't. Right? But the guilt, right? And so then the whole experience, takes a blow because people just instinctively know that now the mood is shifted, right? And
Let's talk about that guilt. That is so crazy. Our kids are grown up, and or almost grown up. I still have a couple of stragglers at home, but to the pressure to still continue to do the things that you did. Where did we get these rules from? Like that Christmas is over the top, and all about the giving and the really big show, right? There's even, a lot of reels that are going on about, wives looking at their husbands and saying, "Welcome to the show," as the kids are opening up. But it creates such a precedent for years and years to come, and then here we are in our perimenopause years or menopause years, and we're still trying to put on the show for everybody. And you know just recently I've been talking to the kids and stuff about their wish list for Christmas and stuff like that, and really my kids, they had a few things here and there. They kind of had to think and stretch their minds a little bit, but it's like everyday stuff. I think that people are really gifted out. It's not like when we were growing up where you're getting presents only a few times a year, your birthday and Christmas. People are buying, stuff for their children almost daily, sometimes weekly for sure. So the presents, it doesn't really seem to be that much of a big deal to them anymore. So they really are talking about experience gifts and self-care things that they really want, things that, make them feel good personally. So really trying to stretch my own imagination and jump out of my own box and my own guilt about having 1,000 things for each person under the tree, and really thinking about that person and what would really be useful long term and make them feel good about themselves, not something that's going to be forgotten in a week.
Yeah. And those things are like really important. And I have said this for years. It's, about the experience, right? And certainly, if you were a Christian, if that is, why you're celebrating Christmas, it's about the birth of Jesus. It's not about giving presents. It's not about the fancy meal, right? Are you making his birth mean something in your day to day? And for many people, they don't celebrate Christmas that way. And what I would say is then it's not Christmas, it's just happy present day,
Yeah.
happy family day, whatever it is that you're calling it. But if you are saying, Merry Christmas, there should be an element of, that gratitude, that Thanksgiving, that thankfulness that this little baby was born, and the adventure that mankind has been on ever since. But it's the experience. And so my husband and I, sit down and we make these kind of lists about, well, when is everyone coming, and what's the theme for this day? What's the theme for that day? So yes, what is the food that we're going to have, but what is the theme, and what's the experience that we're going to have? And it's not about expensive experiences, because let me tell you, sure, you can go and watch the Chinese dancers in the area that I live during Christmas, and that's, I think, $200 a seat times a whole lot of people. I can think of way better ways to spend my money. But they can be experiences like, a little wiener roast on a hike, or a marshmallow roast. They can be decorating Christmas cookies. You can just make some, icing, or buy some if you want. And, just little things. A couple years ago, actually, when my parents were visiting, we had a snowflake making contest. Gave everyone the same piece of paper and a pair of scissors, and everyone was to make their snowflake. And I'll tell you, my dad, who was quite old at that time, made the most beautiful snowflake. And I'm thinking, I didn't even know that you knew how to make paper snowflakes. And and it was a fun thing. And I remember I posted everybody's pictures on Facebook, and I had people vote for their favorite snowflakes, and we had prizes. And one of our family's favorite games or experiences is snowball fight. And once upon a time, when we first got it, it was very rare. You could barely find them. But most places now at Christmas sell a box of basically snowballs. And they're not a pom-pom. There's much more density to them. But we have these snowball fights in the house, and that always elicits a lot of laughter and screaming, and it's just a lot of fun. But it's the experience of that connection. It's not just for having a games day. What are the games specifically? Because if it's like my house, when you ask what game do you want to play, oh, I don't know. And 3 hours later, we're still, I don't know what game we're going to play. So these are the 4 games we're going to play on games day. Which one would you like to play first? Right.
Yeah, and it's about the engagement. We have trouble with one of our children. He doesn't like he will do a game or two and then he's bored. Like, so sitting there for some people sometimes seems almost overwhelming, or like it's supposed to invoke conversation, but you're passing cards around. So you really need to think about engagement during, you know, um, a games kind of area. Some people think that sitting down and watching Christmas movies and stuff is great, and that is great. And I have enjoyed doing that, especially a few of my Christmas seasonal favorites. But it doesn't invite a whole lot of conversation. So that's what we're trying to explain to everyone, is that you need to have things around that creates conversation, creates engagement.
Mm-hmm. Well, and sometimes you can find these really great, they're little games. They're about $10, and it's a box of cards, and they're just questions that you ask, and they can be on all kinds of topics, and they have them for all age groups so that you can include everyone. Sometimes I just like going to the dollar store, because they might have, like, they look like a mini deck of cards, but it's a very simple game that you can play. Or it's like a name that Christmas tune, where you might hum this song, or it might be a book of riddles or jokes or something like that, to strike up conversation that's not hostile conversation. We have enough, I'll say, debate on our day to day, But the questions that, I wonder what else is possible. Like, if time and money were no option, where would you live and why?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So things that get people thinking about maybe a future event or a hopeful event versus, what did you think about the last election poll? It's like,
Exactly, yeah. And, there's so many posts out there that I've seen about women asking other women, "What are you getting your husband for Christmas? I'm thought out. I'm this, I'm that." And it's not junk, but it's stuff. It's just, work gloves or this or that. And I think, come on, where's the date night stuff? Like, let's get involved in creating moments and engagement and things like that, even for your kids. Why wouldn't you wanna have a date night with your kid and create a date night in the future? Here's tickets. Yes, it's a Christmas present and you can't use it today. But again, in this age group, we're not talking about
yeah.
two-year-olds or four-year-olds or five-year-olds. We're talking about almost adult children or adult children. And I would love to do this with you. So if you're feeling sad about not having, special time with your kids and they're away from home and they come home and life is busy and you're not getting that engagement, why not create a date night or going for a drive with them? Hey, on this day you're gonna come home and we're gonna go to lunch and it's a town, half an hour down the road. So you're driving there, then you're having lunch, and then you're driving back. It's all about the engagement, creating a moment, right?
And we've done this in the past, even with little kids, especially when we had limited financial resources. And, my Mr. Wonderful was always really great at this. And he would make these little coupon books for the kids. And it could be, hot chocolate with daddy, right? And he would take them out for hot chocolate, or, games afternoon on, a Sunday. And so the kids could just, give him these coupons to use throughout the year. And maybe initially, they're thinking, well, okay, what, I've got nothing to play with or nothing to wear. But, and right, it was the most amazing gift. And there were some of them that had lost their little coupon books that resurfaced many years later. And it was like, can I still use these? Right. And of course, Scott was like, well, absolutely. I mean, it was a present that, I made for you. But, it's not more things that people need. And this is what we have to understand, because a lot of what people are buying honestly is synthetic garbage. It's just the toxicity, especially with the electronics products and the Bluetooth and blue light and all of these things that are just damaging, or, clothing that's literally made out of petroleum, like crude oil products that are causing toxicity. But why don't you do something creative? Like, make a little recipe book of your favorite recipes, mom's favorite Christmas recipes. And you can send it to them electronically. You can print it out. You can take it to Staples and they can put it into a little book. You don't have to put 500 recipes in there. You might just put 4 or 5 recipes and have a little story about each one, or, why it's your favorite. And this makes a really special gift for people that is way more than anything you could ever buy them, really. It's from the heart.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and why not include a little experience to go along with it? After you make these cookies, come over and we'll have a coffee date or something. Always trying to have an experience. And my daughter has mentioned several times, I hope you have these recipes written down, because I mean, let's be honest, we've made some of these recipes so many times, we don't need a recipe and a how-to kind of thing, but it's on the top of our heads. We hope you wrote those down because we love this recipe. It's a comfort food for them now, so they aren't going to remember a pinch of this and a dash of that, right? So,
Well, and that's so true. And, even my kids will always say, do you have the rest? Can I get the recipe? Oh, right. Never mind. Right. Because I rarely use my cookbooks. And I have a lot of cookbooks where I've got, little recipes tucked away. from when I was married or younger, whatever. And of course, if I'm going to make those, I know them. But sometimes, some of these recipes go missing because certain people take them because they want to experience a recipe too. So why not start cataloging those recipes?
I
Or
just had a thought. It's like, how everyone's so engaged in the reels and watching things, flash in front of their eyes now instead of actually reading anything. Why don't you make a reel of yourself actually making the recipe though, and then send it to them, email it to them, and then they have creating that and they can watch that for years to come.
it's so funny that you would say that. There is a new app. It's kind of creepy a lot. Okay. And so you get this app and you literally videotape your loved one. So maybe if that's going to be you, it's you, or it's your mom or dad or whoever. And you have to videotape them on all different angles and you get them to say these things that it tells them to say. And I kid you not, this is where it goes freaky. So now this app loads in that person so that when that person dies, you can just call that person.
Hmm.
And that app will open and it will be your mom or dad or brother, whoever it is, talking to you. Like you're just doing on like a Zoom call or a FaceTime call with them. And
Mhm.
you can program this app to do all kinds of things, like they can make a recipe for you, right? Crazy that you would even say that. So I personally, if any of my children are watching it, never get me that, right? And don't ask me to do that because I will not. I think that is very sketchy stuff that's going on with that. So do it yourself. Would that not be so much fun if you created even a private YouTube channel for your kids and you just started recording yourself doing things and they would just have that forever, right? And of course, once you upload your video onto a platform like that, then it is downloadable and it's a permanent
Well,
thing.
and it doesn't even have to be recipes. It could you even, write a letter to them, but you speak it to them instead of them having it. So,
Yeah,
yes, I mean, nobody wants to have the morbid thoughts about death, but eventually, it will happen. And then what a wonderful keepsake. I'm a little leery about the AI stuff. I don't know if that is something that I would want, but definitely to have
yeah.
my mom or my grandma, I mean, how amazing if I think about it now, I get almost brings tears to my eyes. How amazing it would be to see my grandma making her pierogies or you know what I mean? Like it just would warm my heart.
Right. And I think this is why the AI is capitalizing on this, right? Capitalizing on people's emotional connections. And it's
Yeah.
undoubted. I remember when our grandfather was quite later in life and we had traveled out west and we were traveling home and we stopped up in Manitoba and Scott was so smart. He sat down with him for hours and asked him every single question he could think of about his entire life and everyone he knew and everything he did and all of those things. And in those days, I mean, we had an actual video camera because that's what you had. There was no phones with stuff on it. And he video recorded our grandfather and made a little movie out of him. And man,
Mhm. Yeah, like how amazing would that be? Like I've given gifts to my parents and to my husband's parents, those books that they fill out and stuff.
mm,
Although the thought is there and it's kind of, iffy if they're gonna actually sit down and fill them out. Again, talking about time and how busy we are in our daily lives to actually sit down and carve out a time where you go back and write out your memories because once they go, and those memories are lost with them. That's kind of, when we talk about Remembrance Day and we circle around that idea for a couple of days and think, man, like it's a dying thing because once all the veterans are gone, who's left to share the stories? I mean, they're all secondhand, but to have a video of them talking about it or a book, if you know that your parents would, write, their memories in a book,
yeah.
like superb. Like you'll never get rid of that. And that's something that could be passed down to generation to generation.
Well, and even if you're not computer literate and you don't know how to use some of these platforms, I mean, literally get a journal every year, and the journal is for your kids. So this isn't a journal that you're going to write your deepest, darkest crazies in it, but it's a journal where you say things that need to be heard. Well, today I
Mhm.
was thinking about so and so. I was remembering when you guys were little and we did this, right? And it's just these little moments because unfortunately, more than men, menopausal aged women start to experience dementia and Alzheimer's and lose access to some of their memory. And there's lots of there's lots of reasons behind this. One is just the high cortisol. We're stuck in stress mode all the time. So we're not properly functioning. Number two, we don't have the estrogen. And so the brain is just not as sharp. And there's just a whole host of things. So we keep thinking, well, when I have time, well, maybe when I'm 68, I'll do that. Maybe when I'm 74, I'll do that. Maybe when I have, retired in a nursing home and have nothing to do. But you might not have that luxury.
Mhm. Mhm.
What if
Yeah, even for myself, like thinking about things that my kids did, and they were so hilarious at the time, and you'll think, I'll never forget that. And then 6 kids later, you don't remember all those little things that happened.
Yeah. Or the nuances, or it happened, but you don't quite remember which kid or
Yeah.
which year. And so why are we waiting to, leave this legacy, to make this impression, to say the things that matter the most to the people that matter the most in the time that they most need to hear it?
Yes. Yeah.
Right, we go through our life and we talk about things as if we literally have all the time in the world. Well, one day I'll tell my daughter I love her, right? One day I'll show my son that he was super important to me. One day I'll show, right? And we make all of these little bargains with ourselves, but what if today is the one day?
Mhm.
What if today is the day that when you say that, it moves a mountain out of their way?
Right.
Right? Or it's so impactful for them, right? Or what if today is the day where whatever that neuron turns off and you can't ever think about that memory again? You just
Right.
can't, bring it together.
Mhm.
So I think that's a great challenge that, maybe all of our listeners, consider. What one thing could you, make come alive for your kids or family or loved one? If that's you, making their favorite recipe or reading your favorite story or singing your favorite song like a crazy person, like, what is that one memory that you can keep alive and give that as a gift for
Mhm.
your loved ones?
Mhm. And I've actually just thought of another one. If you have a challenge thinking of something that's really meaningful for Christmas, you can buy on Amazon or any other place, or even the dollar store, probably. They're like ornaments that are like empty and there's no writing or design, but you can even buy beautiful ones if you want.
Yeah.
You can roll up a little scroll of your favorite memory of them of that year, and then do that continuously. I read a story once about there was a lady that her mom always gave her granddaughter these most extravagant, beautiful ornaments, and she was just kept begging her to stop doing that. They're going to get broken, and it's too much responsibility. It overwhelms me, like on and on. And her mom just kept doing it and doing it. And then, she had a special Christmas tree where she put all these beautiful ornaments on. And then one time it fell, and there was inside this, memory of her as a child. And she started bursting into tears. And I mean, obviously it's a story and whatever, but she started smashing all these ornaments open, and there was beautiful, handwritten memories of her childhood in there. And I just, of course, teared up because we do that in perimenopause as well. But it is a lovely memory, or some kind of trinket or something that you can hang onto the Christmas tree. Maybe you don't want to have to smash it open, but that's one thing that you can start with. And maybe even I will challenge myself to do that for my kids. I usually write them a card, but the cards seem to get lost or thrown out with all the Christmas wrap and whatever. So maybe I'm going to think of a really good way to share a good memory of that year or in the past, and then they can, have that forever.
Yeah, and even, taking something in, whether it's a Sharpie, but putting the year even on the ornaments so that, you know, there's that as well. And obviously, we don't want the ornaments to be busted or broken, but what a
Or you
surprise.
could write it on there maybe if it's just a really quick,
Yeah,
or
yeah.
print it out and decoupage or what's the word there?
Decoupage. Mod
Yeah,
Podge. Get yourself some Mod Podge up at Michael's.
yeah, that's a great idea. And then
Yeah.
they can have it. You don't have to smash anything open or try and stuff it inside. You can just put it right on the ornament itself.
Well, and if you're not an ornament person, you might consider something like a picture frame. And so every year you're adding to the picture frame. So maybe you have just a nice picture as a background, but then you have little things that you're writing out that you're, tacking down so that you're adding to this picture frame. And every year it gets hung up. Maybe every year everybody adds their favorite memories. So you get this collage going. Maybe it's a special scrapbook, or back in the day, we used to have photo albums with those sticky pages. I'm sure they still make them, but this might be the season where you get a photo album, you take a couple pictures, you get them printed, and everybody posts, their favorite memory from that year, or give them a couple of things so that you can fill a page or two for that year. And what a beautiful memory book that could then be passed down through the generations, and even copies made so that everyone in the family gets this gorgeous memory book through the years.
How wonderful would that be?
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, so we encourage, and maybe this is part of our self-care too. So many women do experience better emotional stability when we are doing things that feed our soul and fill our cup. So it's tapping into memories and sharing our love is one of the easiest and simplest ways to do self-care, right? To light up our heart, to bring a smile or a memory is an act or a service of love or kindness to ourselves. So maybe you do that with a cup of your, favorite tea or hot chocolate, or a beautiful candle going so that it just feels a little bit more special for you. But making those moments in your day is so important as we're moving through this very, very busy winter season and the holidays that are upon us, where people, they still have their same everything to do, but now they've got a to-do list on top of their to-do list on top of their to-do list with all of these expectations. So drop the expectations. Nobody's expecting anything. I think we need to move away from the feeling guilty about what we are doing or not doing, and just show up. Right? Show up as you are far better to show up with 8 hours of sleep and a smile on your face than you are to show up with 3 or 4 hours of sleep and be a grumpy pants, a Grinch all day long. So here's the here's the hint: if your hand is in the Grinch jar more times than anybody else in the family, that's a problem, right? Because women, we kind of set the emotional climate or the tone for the home. So we're wanting to show up as our best selves during the season. And part of that, again, is we just have to do these beautiful moments of self-care. So maybe rather than thinking I have to carve out 2 hours of time I don't have, what's a beautiful self-care moment that I can experience right now? And one of my least expensive, least costly self-care moments, believe it or not, is after I cleanse my face at night. I get the washcloth like really hot, and I press it into my face, and I give myself really this steam facial for whatever 30 seconds or so. And I might do that 2 or 3 times. And it seems maybe trivial, but it's huge. It's just huge. It makes me feel good. It makes my skin glow. It's just such a lovely experience. And you could do better. I mean, you could put some eucalyptus or something on there, and or lavender, and just give yourself also that beautiful aroma. Sometimes it's just as simple as deciding that you are having that glass of water when you wake up, because you don't know when you're going to get glass of water for the rest of the day. Maybe it is just deciding that throughout this Christmas season, that when you wake up, the first 10 minutes, you write in a journal about what you're grateful for, or the intentions for the day. And we actually talked about this during our retreat, about even before you go to bed, literally setting your intentions for tomorrow, because people think tomorrow starts when they wake up, but tomorrow starts at midnight. And so to set the intention that the day will be good, it will be filled with peace and joy, and that you'll have lots of energy and life, and we can do those things. So it's not a lot of time, but just reminding ourselves that we don't do well with no sleep. We don't do well with no food, and especially if our only food is sugar and carbs and caffeine. And we do really well when we take those little moments to love ourselves, and to just give ourselves the grace and the kindness without the guilt and the shame of what we're baking, what we're not. And don't be baking out of guilt. I mean, that is no longer fun for anyone.
Mhm. That was a hard one for me to give up because, I mean, baking was a huge part of our childhood. Any event at all, but especially Christmas, we baked and baked and baked. And once upon a time, I ate it all, and my kids ate it all. But now my kids don't. The older ones have grown up and moved away, and it's my stragglers left. They don't eat this stuff, and if they do, they have such good self control that they have one or two. So who's eating it? This one here, and I sure as heck don't need it on
Yeah,
on my body. So, yeah, self care is so important. I mean, we always find 5 or 10 minutes to do something else or clean something else, but why aren't we taking that 5 or 10 minutes and setting a regular routine? It's just like we talked about in the retreat about babies having a routine in the evening, and letting your body know it's time to unwind, and it's downtime, getting prepared for sleep and having a nice sleep instead of just falling into bed at 1 or 2 in the morning exhausted, and still your mind is busy because you've been under the lights, and it's your body doesn't even know what time it is anymore. So
yeah, that's really important. And we have such a great, just as an aside, especially because we're posting or talking a lot in this kitchen table episode about the self-care, and showing up for ourselves so that we can show up for others. And we do have our Mary in Menopause a gifting box available. So there's a QR code in the top right hand corner there. And then as well, there's the link, and that's live right in the chat, that you can click on it. And this makes a great gift for you, a great self-care gift for any woman that you know and love, and for husbands to get to your wife. Maybe wives, give your husband the link. So this is the fantastic menopause box that was part of our retreat, with all kinds of actual tools, things that you will use. So they're not just trinkets sitting on a counter, things that are consumable goods, and things that you will use on a daily basis. Let's say, for example, in the kitchen or in the bathroom, or when you're working out. But this is a really, really great way to incorporate that self-care. And we've got self-care everywhere, from the kitchen to the food to the skincare. I'm just trying to think, like, there's for just even journaling purposes, and to track even things like, did I actually drink water today? Did I,
that's
did
been
I?
a life changer for me, that journal, and the personalized size charcuterie board or cutting board. I
Mm,
mean, we fight over that in our household. I have one, and I have many cutting boards, and I just even got a smaller one. I don't know, about 3 months ago, but it's on the thicker side, and nobody uses it. It's tossed aside. Everyone's grabbing that one. It's like the favorite. It's just the nice size to cut up a small onion or, some strawberries or whatever you're doing for a little bit of prep, and wipes up so fast and easy. It's just, I love it.
I'm just trying to grab one. So
Hmm.
they're just a beautiful size. And also, if you are having that, it still smells so good from the actual branding. But if you are having a little charcuterie or a special romantic night, whether it's for yourself or with your spouse, this is all you need. We don't need to fill up a giant charcuterie board and eat 5,000 calories on a romantic date night. And so I highly encourage you to just look at the Mary Menopause box. What a
Yes,
fantastic.
and Acadian wood too. So it's a top-notch wood. It's not pine or something like that.
Yeah. So, anyways, we wish you a Merry Christmas and just a blessed season of love, kindness, generosity, self care, and thinking outside the box a little bit. Like, not so much about the gifts, because the gift is you and how you show up in this world. And so, how can you invite your family, your friends to experience more this holiday season and make memories that will last a lifetime? And we've had some really great ideas on this episode. So, if you missed any of the episode, please go back because, wow, what a great, some great ideas.
Hmm. And try and do one small thing this year to create memories, and see how well it catches on. I bet you next year people will be looking forward to adding to that or making it bigger and doing it maybe themselves. So I'm going to challenge myself to come up with something, and I'll let you know how that turns out.
Looking forward to it. It's going to be so exciting. I can't really say what we're doing because some of my kids actually listen. So we have that in the works already, and it's going to be a really awesome time. Thanks so much for joining us, everyone. And we just pray that God the Father would just bless each and every one of you, that you would just fall in love with that self care moment, and that it would make all the difference for you this Christmas season. In Jesus' name, amen. And thanks so much for watching, everyone. And we will see you online soon.